Severe tropical cyclone Fina, currently a Category 3 system, continues to intensify as it moves to the north of Darwin and south of the Tiwi Islands. And we can clearly see that here on the satellite image. Note in the last few hours, a bit of an eye feature developing in the satellite image, and that tells us that the system is continuing to intensify, and that's why we saw it upgraded to a Category 3 system earlier today. But as you can see, it's now passing just to the north of Darwin and will continue to do so in the coming hours, and that's why we're likely to see the strongest winds and heaviest rainfall as we move into the late afternoon and evening hours. And we can see that clearly on the radar in the last few hours. We can see we had a bit of an eye feature earlier, but notice where this yellow and orange rain is. That's where the heaviest rainfall and strongest winds are occurring. And earlier it was through eastern parts of the Tiwi Islands and around the Cape Hotham area, but now that's moving closer towards northern areas of Darwin and the southern parts of the Tiwi Islands. And just in the last half hour, we've seen winds gust to over 100 kilometres an hour at Gun Point and around 86 kilometres an hour at Darwin Airport and 80 kilometres an hour at Fanny Bay. And these winds are only likely to increase further as we move into the coming hours, as these yellow areas and the southern part of the tropical cyclone Fina scrapes the coastal areas and far northwestern parts of the top end as we move through that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. time frame before popping out into the Joseph Bonaparte as we get into the evening and overnight hours. So let's track all this in more detail. So firstly, tropical cyclone warnings are current for much of the northwest part of the top end and the entire Tiwi Islands. We also have cyclone watches current now from the NT-WA border across much of the northern Kimberley coast, as we could see gales develop there in the next 24 to 48 hours. But right now, in the next 6 to 12 hours, our main concern are the Tiwi Islands and for our coastal and adjacent inland areas around the Darwin area and further parts of the northwest top end, where we're likely to see damaging to locally destructive winds as this cyclone passes by to the north, and widespread heavy rainfall that will lead to flash and riverine flooding. So let's time this out. So right now, Category 3 system, about 60 kilometres to the north of Darwin, moving west-southwest at about 8 or 9 kilometres an hour. Then, as we move further into tonight and the early morning hours, the cyclone will continue to track away from Darwin, but as it does so, we're going to go from southerly winds to northerly winds as we get on the eastern side of severe tropical cyclone Fina. That means the winds will start coming in off the ocean, and that's when we can get the strongest winds and also a bit of a push of water as well. Thankfully, from a storm surge perspective, high tide's around 8 o'clock, but current guidance shows that we're not expecting to exceed the highest astronomical tide of the year, with this strongest onshore winds coming with as the tide goes out. So hopefully that's going to lead to some major impacts. But regardless, with widespread heavy rainfall, dangerous sea conditions expected, and some of our creeks and rivers flowing out to sea, we could have some issues there. And that's on top of the heavy rain and damaging winds. Thankfully, moving further away on Sunday, but then it could intensify into a Category 4 system tomorrow afternoon as it moves further away from the Darwin and the NT area as it gets over the waters north of WA. Then as we get into Monday, we could see it just staying hopefully offshore north of WA, but residents and communities along the northern Kimberley coast will need to stay up to date with the latest forecasts and warnings in the coming days as we continue to track severe tropical cyclone Fina. So what are the impacts for this? Well, we're seeing widespread heavy rainfall already. We're seeing 30 to 50 millimetres around the Darwin area with heavy falls on the Tiwi Islands, and we're likely to see an additional 1 to 200 millimetres over the next 12 to 24 hours. Widespread damaging winds are also likely. The peak time of those winds generally around that kind of 5, 6 p.m. all the way through around 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, with damaging to locally destructive winds, enough to bring down trees and power lines, cause power outages and possible property damage. So really not a good time to be outside. Please make sure you stay hunkered down inside. Widespread heavy rainfall could also lead to flash and riverine flooding, cause some communities to be isolated, and just dangerous conditions on the roads, and also some of the dangerous coastal conditions as well around the high tide with seas and swell, so watch out for that. Quickly looking at some of the rainfall totals, we could easily see another widespread 1 to 200 millimetres, and some of our coastal locations could see even higher than that over the coming 12 to 24 hours. And then and that rain threat will then move to the northern Kimberley coast as we get into early next week. So severe tropical cyclone Fina impacting the Darwin area and southern Tiwi Islands right now, with widespread heavy rain, damaging to destructive winds, and some pretty high seas and swell on the high tide later tonight. So please stay up to date with the latest forecasts and warnings via our website and app. You can track the cyclone on radar. We'll be issuing track maps every hour right through the night and into the early morning hours. And you can also get the latest advice from your local emergency services. And please stay safe.